sent that to you?
It's not right.
How are you?
They shouldn't be doing that. That's just not right. No.
Isn't it?
Better than the Lincoln show. They went up for Lincoln. That's a 2-day show. And it's like it rained all day Saturday. Just.
So that was the weekend before.
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah, the storms.
Yeah.
It was a great.
And Sunday morning he packed up and came home. He made $84.
Yep, did that, they can do that, that can happen.
We have a good.
Yeah. Yeah, I used to go to them all the time, I never learned one.
Sounds like they had quite a crowd.
That's right.
We're running late. We were
It came out of the catalog that we got in the mail and called Victorian something. That's one reason. Yeah.
I drive through the alley, just can't do it.
If I don't tell you to do it, they're gonna do it.
Yeah.
And horses.
Oh,
My
what?
grandkids, they go to.
Get your number today.
Well, that one, I'll give that.
The oldest one is.
Oh, you'd already done that.
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Meeting with public comment, is there any public comment?
You go ahead. Okay. I'm here because about a month ago, I sent you an email. Pardon me?
We get your name.
Zona Hale. I sent you an email to request time on the schedule. I waited a month. I was ignored. When Laura first came on the commission, we had that Misty fight. They never once denied us time on the schedule. We put it on every week. We were here every week with hundreds of people. And the reason we weren't denied is because it's unlawful to do that to a citizen. It's against the law. I'm saying that because, of course, you know I'm someone who wants to fire you. I wrote the letter in the paper to recall you because I don't think you're doing a good job. But in Montana, we cannot recall a county commissioner unless you have violated the law. And as far as I know, you've done that twice. When we did that Misty fight, one of the hardest things, one of the most difficult things, because it was an advocacy fight, that Misty fight was something that was going to affect people in this community after the fact. Very few people knew, and we're going to experience it head on. That's why we only had hundreds of people instead of thousands of people, but that was a pretty good fight. And we won, and you lost. The hardest thing was getting people interested and letting them know and educating them and getting them involved. Because in advocacy, you have people or you have money. We had no money. But you guys have done something I can't even believe you did. I mean, hats off to you. I salute you. You hired Mary Hendrickson. And I cannot believe you did that because I have never seen a human being galvanize the attention of every citizen in this county more effectively, more efficiently, and so totally as Mary Hendrickson. We don't even have to do that part of the work. It's the hardest part of the work is getting people involved. That's already done. It's already done. Because of that, it has brought this community, I mean, she's a gift that keeps on giving. I can go anywhere in this town, anywhere in this county, I can talk to people I don't even know, and people are paying so close attention, it's just not the solid waste thing anymore. They're paying attention to everything. they're paying attention. I'm having conversations, I can't even believe, I'm learning things I generally don't pay attention to. After Misty, I was done. But I'm telling you, this is a problem. This is a problem. People are wondering, why isn't the solid waste department paying for itself? It's set up to pay for itself. What happened to all the money? And we're not getting straightforward, honest answers, or at least an answer that makes any sense. What's happening with all the lawsuits? You know, I'm hearing scuttlebutt. I'm not even going to ask you because I know you're not going to tell me. But I'm hearing that the lawsuits thing going on in this county, that we don't even know how many there are, but the insurance out of Mako isn't going to cut it. You're way over your ceiling. I don't know if that's true. I don't know. People are concerned. And we feel like we're dealing with an unresponsive government body, just like what's happened in Misty. And we could bring hundreds of people in here, it's easy, we got it. Somebody else is handling that petition, which I'm sure you're aware of, hundreds of people that are very upset, and you're not working when you don't respond to the citizens. And they're angry. I mean, people are really, really angry. And it's not just the solid waste, it's the money. It's what's going on with the rodeo grounds. It's where the money's being spent. It's all this stuff. People are asking questions nobody knows the answer to. Because we're not getting answers. People are talking to each other, but we're not getting answers. And I'm not going to ask again to be put on the schedule. I've learned from that fight what it's like to deal with an unresponsive political body. And as far as I'm concerned, there's only 3 avenues you can take with something like that. As you guys getting it together and making the decisions. If you were a private business, you'd be out of business because you're not taking care of your customers. They're not satisfied with the services they're getting for what they're paying for. You can privatize it. That's another way to do it. Or we recall you. I mean, things that are going... This last couple of weeks, we all discovered that our political speech on the social media that we were using here in this town has been shut down. That, coupled with the garbage police, I mean, it reminds me of Nazi Germany. I mean, what in the world are you doing? You know, what is this about? Why is this happening? You know, just for anybody's information, I'll tell you something. We, the citizens, can use this building to organize. You can go to the sheriff's office, you have to publicize it, it's a public meeting. You go to the sheriff's office, get a key, you can come in here in the evening, you can organize. I did it. I did it week after week after week after week. Anyone can do it. That's available to us. They can shut us off of social media, but we can still do it. You know. I'm just saying. There are a lot of really smart people in this community that can help solve these problems if you work with them. I mean, a lot of them came forward on this garbage thing, and they were ignored on how to handle this. But hey, if you want Mary Hendrickson to handle it, you know, talk about a way to unite this community. I'm meeting more people now I haven't met in years. You know, people, I'm not that kind of person, I'm not out and about that much, so I'm just saying. I'm not going to ask again, that's it.
Thank you. Any other public comment?
I just want to ditto what she said, and I'm really ashamed of you,
Yeah.
personally you. You just looked up for 2 seconds at the end of her rant. Vogtford looked at her eye to eye the whole time. I'm ashamed of you, ashamed of you. Wow. I'm done.
Thank you. Anyone else? Yes.
Bill Davis. I've been busy and I haven't been into your meetings, but I knew Zona Hale from a child. She was the Kempton family, and she's right. My phone has been rung a lot, guys. The county, the residents are feeling that they're really being shut out, neglected, not listened to. A lot of the people that have called me have said that they've come and asked for things, or they've asked for different things done. Yes, a lot of it's the solid waste thing, and most of them have told me the same thing that I put in the paper, that Mary Henderson should be fired.
Yeah.
And the 3 of you, the county commissioners, should run the solid waste department, should take in the public's input and try and come to agreeable agreement that would work for the financial of the county and for the people of the county, the convenience or the help. And the wintertime's coming, it's gonna be worse, but anyway, Zona's right. We're getting a tremendous amount of support. And please, I don't know, you guys are commissioners and you know more, have a public meeting. I don't know what to do, but we're being shut out. And like the road department, the second day Mary Henderson was hired, I called her and asked her to come out. She talked to Brandon Lynch, talked to me in the area. A couple other people on Cottonwood had talked to me, and some out in Crow Creek, Muddy Lane, there were some issues. And she said, I said, Mary, what's your, how good are you on roads? What do you know about roads? She told me I know nothing about roads, Bill. I'm a solid waste person. I work for the state. I do not know anything about the roads. And I said to her, I said, okay then, will you please have a meeting and ask some county residents, farmers, ranchers, drivers, anybody to come to it and get all of the information on the roads that need work, where it's done. And can you listen to us in the areas and do some things to the road? I took her up 3 sets of roads the second day she was hired and asked her to do this, this, and this in the future, put it on a 5 or 10 year plan. And I said, look at what's been done. I said, there was grants given, and these culverts were installed up here, and the water's down here, and the road's down here, and the water runs over the road, not through the culverts. And one road, it's bad, and it flooded, and a lot of people kind of telling me the same thing. Well, then I find out that there was a man that worked for Dick Anders Construction come in and applied for the job, and you hired Mary Henderson, and he had been with them for 25 years as a road department foreman. And he wasn't hired. And I don't understand. So anyway, I back Zona up, and a lot of people are backing what I'm telling. I'm just trying to give you their information. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other comments?
Karen Cayulius. I still wonder when you're gonna work with the union for the detention center. I still think Mary Hendrickson is way overpaid because I think people in public safety deserve more.
Any other public comment? Tim?
Tim Ravendahl, citizen. Question. One of the things that recently heard in one of the commission meetings was reflecting on the Copper City Road. And I've talked to several people that have been in road building since that meeting, where our public works director said it was going to cost $600,000 a mile. I'm not paraphrasing, I don't remember the exact number. But when I reflected that information to some other people that are in the road building business and have been involved with local government, they're going, wow, where did they come up with that figure? And one of the guys that is in the business said, I just got done doing one in Choteau County, and it was just a hair over $100,000 a mile to start from scratch and build it. Again, just wanted to make sure you folks hear that that's part of what we're hearing as well. The misinformation or the misrepresentation of figures continues. When the solid waste program first started, I asked Mary why she was promoting $170,000 debt in that department when actually at the day of the very first town hall down in Crow Creek, that number was $325,000. And I asked, why aren't we updating that? I went to the next one in Winston, and it was the same posters with the same figures. Without knowing the true facts, it's hard for citizens to understand what the true play is. I've been down this road with you folks. I'm not here to beat up anything, just wanting to make sure that I can help get the truth out. Thank you.
Any other public comment? Cory?
Hey, I just wanted to follow up, I've already put this announcement out, but tonight, if you're interested, there's a town hall meeting tonight in the courtroom with people from the Office of the Commissioner of Securities and Insurance and Office of Consumer Protection, and we're basically, if there's any issues that people have with hail damage claims, whether problems with their insurance claims, or there's a lot of tips on how to avoid scammers, that's basically what's gonna happen tonight. It's about an hour long, starting at 6 PM, I believe, 6 PM. And in the last 5 years, I've prosecuted at least 5 people that came in, did an insurance, or did a bid for somebody on a project, said, well, I need half the money down. People are forking over $1,500, $2,000, and then they never see them again. So we would like to prevent that rather than having to chase them down and prosecute them. Try and squeeze water out of them, out of a rock, and they don't have the money. I'd rather do that on the front end by some prevention. So that's the purpose of tonight's meeting, you're all invited. I did put a couple of these up last week. I went by the bulletin board this morning and it's down, so I put it all over internet and our usual distribution list, but they're here available because it's not on the bulletin board anymore. So there you go.
Cory, out of those, did you say you prosecuted 5 people?
I think I have to go through the numbers, but I think it's 5, yeah.
Were any of those locals?
Well, one was living here at the time, but he was not a local. He's from Anaconda, and he's kind of been a fly-by-night guy that's been around. So he's on the run right now. So, and we've successfully, one of them we did a deferred prosecution agreement, and last Friday or Thursday, he paid off the full amount. He's in Colorado now, but all the others, we've gotten convictions, and they're paying, except for one guy has pled guilty and then has now split and has missed his sentencing date, and we have an arrest warrant out for him. So we've been able to successfully prosecute him, but this is a good example of how it's hard to get your money after the fact.
Okay.
And that one's gonna be, that's over $10,000 that he owes.
Okay, thank you. We'll move on to the,
I got
oh,
some.
go ahead.
So this is not on our agenda, and it's something that I just received, and probably more of a message for our cattle producers, is Montana Department of Livestock is holding a series of informational meetings on brucellosis regulations, and the requirement for brucellosis vaccination for female cattle and domestic bison has been extended to Bighorn, Broadwater, Carbon, Jefferson, Stillwater, and Sweetgrass counties. So that meeting will be held here in Broadwater County on September 10th, 8 a.m. to 10:30 p.m. at the Broadwater County 4-H building. So I just wanted to get that information out to folks that may not know that.
Thank you.
Move on to this, excuse me, appointment of child interdisciplinary team members. A resolution ordering the creation of the Broadwater County Interdisciplinary Child Information and School Safety Team. Whereas Section 52.2.211, Section 1 MCA states, County Commissioners shall ensure the formation of an interdisciplinary child information and school safety team. Whereas Section 52.2.211.1 further states that such team includes representatives authorized by any of the following: Youth Court, County Attorney, Department of Public Health and Human Services, County Superintendent of Schools, Sheriff, Chief of any police force, any Board of Trustees of a public school district operating within the boundaries of the county, and Departments of Corrections. Whereas Section 52.2.2.1.2 further directs that team officials may also cooperate with officials from other counties to form a regional interdisciplinary child information and school safety team and are to be formalized by written agreement. Whereas the interdisciplinary child information and school safety team will operate under the further guidance of 52.2.211.3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8. Whereas 52.2.211.9 requires the County of Superintendent of Schools shall provide to the Office of Public Instruction a current copy of any written agreement under this section no later than September 1st. Therefore, it be resolved by the order of the Broadwater County Commissioners, they hereby form the County Interdisciplinary Child Information and School Safety Team. Members authorized designees, youth court, juvenile probation, county attorney, victims advocate, sheriff's office representative, Montana Department of Health, Human Services, Child Protective Services, Lewis and Clark County Child Advocacy Center, high school principal, K-8 principal, elementary dean of students, K-8 counselor, and a high school counselor. Is there a motion to approve the resolution?
I'll move to approve this resolution for the creation of the Broadwater County Interdisciplinary Child Information and School Safety Team.
I am not gonna second, I am gonna make a comment though. My work with the Youth Justice Council bears this out. I also wrote all the letters to formalize and get our group set for the interdisciplinary team. Absolutely support this 110%. However, I'm real uncomfortable with our bypassing our policies and MCA and adopting resolutions without the proper public notice, having the resolutions available for public review prior to our meeting. So I am not going to participate in this vote. I am going to ask that we follow the process and not vote on it today in this manner.
So can we postpone this until next time?
It needs to, per 7/1/2121, it needs to be noticed in the paper for 2 weeks. That resolution needs to be in the clerk and recorder's office for anybody to come and review it. So we could do it when you get back on the 3rd.
Okay, that's supposed to be under no later than September 1st is the deadline.
I think July was the deadline, I understand as well. I still think we need to follow the process. 7/21/21 requires 2 weeks. They've already been meeting. Our following MCA does not preclude their work from happening. It simply ensures that we're following policy and law.
I guess we can table this until the 3rd then?
Sure.
All right, so we'll table this until the 3rd and advertise this in the paper.
Mr. Chair,
Yes, sir.
real quick question, is or will the resolution that you're speaking about be available for public review? Being you're now going to postpone this, and a follow-up question on that, on behalf of Readout News. Is there a program or policy already in place on how this team will work and what their goals and mission is, to get better clarification of what that's all about?
Corey, can you answer that for him?
Yeah, a couple things. First, what is the statute you're citing, Commissioner Obert, regarding 2 weeks' notice?
7/1/2121.
7-1-2121? I don't think that can't be it. Part 21 is business and agriculture livestock regulation. 7-1-
2121, I can read it to you.
I guess while we're waiting, so the second question you had was,
Here it is, it's 7/1/2121, publication and content of notice, proof of publication, subsection 6. The notice must be published twice, with at least 6 days separating each publication. And this is, our policy spells out what we do with resolutions as well.
all right, well, so this is the same statute we dealt with last week on Copper City Road. So that is specifically when publication, when a county is required to publicize notice in a newspaper, which is not the same as giving notice of every action that you take. And there's specifics,
No.
there's a specific statute that says that a resolution can be passed upon public notice and comment after a single time. So I don't have my book with me, otherwise this was gonna come up. But I don't think you need 2 weeks' notice.
Could you please provide us with that statute? Because our policy and practice has been with all resolutions that they are advertised twice in the paper per 7/1/2121, that they are available for the public to review prior to coming to this meeting. If we just need 1 week, then perhaps we can take care of it next week before the September 1 deadline, but we need that statute. But we still do need to make this available for public review.
Okay, well, I've been a big advocate of making documents available for public review. As you know, I've asked you many, many times to do that. I'm not gonna do this on the fly, commissioners. I'm gonna get back to you with what the statute actually says. What was your question, Tim?
Whether there's a policy regarding how the process will work as far as what this team is really going to be doing, what their goals and missions are?
So, it's currently in statute.
You'd have to read the statute.
Hang on. So the statute is 52-2-211, County Interdisciplinary Child Information and School Safety Team. And it lays out, in fact, it says specifically, the purpose of the team and written agreement is to facilitate the exchange and sharing of information that one or more team members may be able to use in serving a child in the course of their professions and occupations, including but not limited to abused or neglected children, delinquent youth, youth in need of intervention, information relating to issues of school safety. And then it can be provided to and disseminated to a team member under different provisions, specifically dealing with youth court and specifically dealing with youth, I guess it would be called juvenile probation, and also specifically dealing with a child that's involved with a social worker, like a foster care situation. It may not be disseminated beyond the organizations or departments that have an authorized member on the team. So what it's used for is basically that purpose, both for the school people, social workers, juvenile probation, my office, the victim advocate office, the sheriff's office, as we deal with. A lot of times there's kids involved, maybe there's a family that has a criminal action or a criminal case, and it affects the kids are involved. And so we're providing services to the kids while we also deal with the family. That's the purpose of it. So that statute's been in place since 1991 with some amendments from then on. What this bill did, and I provided an email and possibly a memo about a month ago on this that I can bring back to the public. It's public information. What the amendment from the last session did was it simply said the county commissioners have to ensure that this is in place. There was some county somewhere in the state that didn't have one in place. So the legislature passed the law simply saying county commissioners make sure one's in place. This one's that we have has been in place for many years.
As long as I can remember.
Yeah, at least the last 15 years. So, this is simply recodifying, that membership is recodifying the membership that's been on this team doing this job for years.
Thank you. And I just follow up statement. The reason I asked the question for clarification is because I know everybody that's in government right now has seen a tremendous upswell of issues with, I'm going to probably get the wrong acronym, CPS, Child Protective Services, where there's a lot of concern about overreach and exceeding the rights of these children, etc. So it's Redoubt News has been getting hammered with requests to do stories on that, and I just want to make sure we're on the front page of where everything's at here in Broadwater County as a citizen and as a deliverer of information for the people.
Well, and I would just say that's the opposite of my experience. My experience is we can't get them to do enough on cases where there's a serious problem, and whether because of workload, stretched thin, staffing, we're way out here in rural Broadwater County. It's not been overreach. It's been we need you to do more than you're doing.
Agreed. Both sides of that story need improvement with that Department of Health and Human Services. Thank you.
Is this, Corey, is this likened to the China petition, the China, or Child in Need of Assistance programs?
I'm not aware
About
of,
the same thing?
I'm not aware
You
of
said
that.
it's been around forever.
Yeah, but
I
we
know.
always call it the Child Protective, we call it CPT, Child Protection Team.
Okay.
So I'm not aware of what you're talking about, but this is, it's always just been referred to as a Child Protection Team.
Okay.
Thank you for your indulgence.
Table that until next week, and we'll move on to the land acquisition project, sign a contract with Attorney Peter Simon for a biannual report to the National Park Service. This is a contract with the Peter Simon, Broderick County Trust Board to complete the federal report for the Canyon Ferry Reservoir towns and parcels and submit it to the National Park Service for biennial review and approval. Is there a motion to approve the contract?
Also move.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Motion's been made and seconded to approve contract with Peter Simons for the Broderick County Trust Board, Broderick County. Is there any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, same. Motion carries.
Mr. Sherman, I just got an email this morning from Peter and David Siegenthaler with National Park about the deadline for that. National Park Service he's very busy, and he said if we don't meet that deadline, don't worry about it, because he would not be able to look at it for weeks anyhow.
Okay.
So I think Peter and I, our email was, let's make the end of September, so we have a little bit.
And weren't they able to ask for an extension if they needed it too, Debbie?
It looks like now we don't need it.
Okay.
That's what the National Park Service guy
Okay.
said. He can't even look at it for a few weeks. So I
Very
think
good.
we're good.
Thank you.
Good to know, thanks Debbie.
Okay, 1020, Brandon Harris, authorization to order new sheriff's office vehicles before end of August deadline.
Not that it makes a lot of difference, that deadline got moved up to September, so, first part of September. So, we're requesting to purchase two, Chevy Police Interceptor Tahoes for the Sheriff's Office patrol fleet. And, we'd like to move one of the old Explorers into our transport division as the van's getting run around a lot, and it's kind of a lot to take when you just got one doctor's appointment for one inmate. So it is nice to have that other car to replace that Chevy Impala. We haven't made a decision on the other Explorer, whether it's gonna be the Explorer or a truck. We're trying to talk to the sheriff and see what's gonna be best utilized at the sheriff's office with that. The cost, so everybody knows, is $39,522, and that is the state contract through Denny Menholt Chevrolet in Billings. Would like that per vehicle. The reason why, sorry, go ahead, Commissioner.
What kind of shape is the other vehicle that you have, the spare vehicle?
It's in good shape, but it needs to be rotated out of the sheriff's office and put back to maybe a more civilian use, maybe just some normal driving. And I think you could get a few more years out of it, but for police vehicle operations, definitely needs to be rotated out. It's starting to spend a lot of time in the shop. Things kind of keep happening.
Is that something that Mike Conkey can use for DES?
We have talked with Mike on whether, you know, we do have a truck as well that I wouldn't really want to, it's got lower miles, and I think that we could either use this Explorer as more of an administration vehicle, and Mike could use the truck a little bit more than what we could use it for. But he did mention that he did have a grant available that might help out our CIP fund, so, just kinda looking at that, and obviously have to have some discussion with the sheriff on what he's
Okay.
want to do, so we just haven't made any decisions with that yet.
Okay.
The two, if I may, the two that we have are, the two interceptors that we're looking at are both over 100,000, we're getting close to 100,000. And one's over,
They're over.
both over. And I talked to Hedstrom, both of them are due for a 100,000 mile redo or whatever we wanna call it. And he said, if you're gonna get rid of them, he goes, let me know, before we get down that path. And it's expensive to do that 100,000 mile update. And I said, well, Brandon's gonna be with commissioners on Monday. So there's a conversation to have with them on Thursday or Friday last week. So that's, the one, it does spend about every 2 weeks. It seems like it's sitting down there at Hedstrom to get worked on again. And so, that gets expensive. Shop hours aren't cheap. So, that's where, I know the ones in dire need to go away, and I don't know about the other one, but we got a couple that could find their way out of our fleet, but we just don't have anything to replace it with, so.
Could you sell them?
Oh, yeah.
Go towards that, well, if nobody else needs them in a different
So,
department,
yeah, I mean, it's,
you can sell them and go towards the,
we usually trade them in, or they can go to public auction as well.
yeah.
Out there, what, Copart is what it's called? Yeah, I think they can go up there, but normally we just trade them in, or we,
Yeah.
rotate them out, like, one Durango went to Allison Costa, for 4-H. We've given 2 vehicles to the city, for Randy Munson now in the last, 8 years, I guess. And, so we try to find homes for them, but, yeah. And some of them are just, they just aren't found on the road dead.
Yeah,
So,
that's why you buying a Chevy?
And then the reasoning for the deadline, the 1st of September, it's not, I don't know that makes that much difference in August 1st of September, but, is that Chevy's switching over the body style and, the specs on the 2021 Tahoes, and it would put us out over a year by the time those are made. And then, once they get built, then you have the cages and things like that all have to be reconfigured. And we experienced that with the Ford that we bought 2 years ago. And it was a pain in the butt to have a vehicle sitting there that you can't use because none of the stuff fits it. So those police vehicle companies have to get those vehicles and build the cages in the vehicle, and then they put them into production. So that's why we want to get on these before deadline.
When do we actually see those vehicles? March?
Yeah, it won't be until, they'll probably get built roughly October, November, and yeah, usually about January, March, I would say. It takes several months for them to get built and then shipped out here to us. We wouldn't be writing a check until later this year, or next year.
We've already given the money for this. It's just really housekeeping. I don't know that we need a vote, but I'm happy to move to support the plan. And let Brandon move forward as described.
Motion been made and seconded to allow Brandon to move forward with purchasing these 2 new vehicles. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, same. Motion carries. Thank you, Brandon.
All right, thank you, Commissioner.
Mr. Chairman, may I ask you a question? Sometimes across from the courthouse in that parking lot, there are 8 county vehicles that seem to just sit there. Is that something we could have less of, or something, or are they all used, or what's the scoop there?
that one over there.
Yeah.
I don't know who all those vehicles belong to.
I don't either, but if we're just having 8 sit around, maybe we could,
Well, they all get used at certain times.
I think one's a maintenance vehicle, isn't it? The gray Ford.
I can't.
The gray Ford, I know what that one's in. There's like a gray Ford that sits over there, and that's maintenance, and then there's a maroon Focus that the commissioners bought for county employees' travel. That's been 10 years ago, probably. And then there's Allison's Durango that we shuffled down out of our patrol division, so she could do her extension and 4-H stuff. Some of those vehicles, yeah, they sit around, they don't get used much, but when you start paying 58.5 cents per mile for somebody who uses a personal vehicle, that tends to get expensive as well. So, I don't know what else sits over there though.
White Explorer.
Which,
The White Explorer.
oh gosh, that was a long time ago too.
Yeah, time to start cleaning up, huh?
Don't look at my back parking lot, it looks like an evidence locker, so.
Mr. Delger? Could we go back to that other discussion? I think I can briefly answer that question that was raised about publication and notice.
Okay.
So the publication and notice statute, 7/1/2121, says whenever a local government other than a municipality is required to give notice by publication, this applies. So the part about publish something twice in the newspaper applies. That is not every instance of action. An example of that is under 7-5-2301. If a county is going to enter into a contract in excess of $80,000, it says it may not be entered into by a county governing body without first publishing a notice calling for bids. The notice must be published as provided in 7-1-2121, which is what I just referred to. That is not the requirement for all government actions. If you go to 7-5-121, resolutions may be submitted and adopted at a single meeting of the governing body.
Which statute was that again?
Which one, the last one?
Yeah.
7-5-121. And I specifically looked at that several months ago on some issue where there was a resolution, and the question was in my mind, do I need to do this over a multi-week process? And that statute specifically addressed it. There used to be a much more extensive body of law governing county resolutions. That was under 7-5-2201. That was repealed. Most of it was repealed in 1979, and then the last two parts were repealed in 1993. So a lot of the more extensive discussions or requirements of resolutions have been repealed. So that's the basis of why you don't have to, everything you want to do, you don't have to publish it 2 weeks in advance. Otherwise, you would, every week's agenda, you'd have to be publishing those 2 weeks in advance rather than the notice requirements that you follow. So,
I think you misunderstood me. I wasn't talking about anything that appears on the agenda. I was strictly talking about resolutions. Our policy states that for resolutions, we follow 7-1-2121. If this can apply, 7-5-121, then that is good. We still need to have the resolution for folks for 1 week though, but not just produced in a meeting. But we could go ahead and do this if we want next week or on the 3rd. I'd be fine with that, but we do need to address our policy and make that change because our policy follows 2-1-2-1. So that is what we approve every year with the New Year's resolution, and that we also follow 7-1-2-1-2-1. So if we don't have to do all that, that's good, but we need to change our policy that states that we're following the other statute, if this is the statute we want to follow. We can't just spring it into meetings. That was my point with what I said earlier. I understand that public notice, as described in 7-1-2-1-2-1, does not refer to every item on the agenda. I'm strictly talking about resolutions of the commission.
So
So
I guess
thank
what
you
I
for
would,
that. That's
I guess
good
what I would
information.
say is, why don't, it would help if you would clarify then what items, what decisions you make that are requiring a resolution and which ones do not require a resolution. Resolutions really only, if you look at the statute, are required for things like your meeting time and place, your standing policies that you do in January, your personnel policy, or whatever it might be. Those resolutions, and I'll give you an example, the meeting time and place, that one is specifically required to be done by a resolution. And then it says that if you are going to change your meeting time in place. There's a certain amount of notice you have to give in advance prior to doing that. Not if you have a special meeting, but if you have a, instead of Monday mornings, you're gonna start meeting on Tuesday mornings, you have to give a certain amount of public notice for that. I think that will clarify what items are required for resolution and which ones are not. Every action that you take doesn't require a resolution.
Okay, so we can move on to 10:30, Mike Conkey, MSU School of Architecture contract for emergency service building, Wheatland area.
Mr. Chairman, members of the commission, I emailed you a copy of this contract. I also put a copy in your desk this morning. This deals with the Southern Broadwater County Emergency Services Building project. Is kind of the concept we've been talking about for a couple of years now. And we used the university architectural students during a class earlier this year, in the first part of the summer, to design a building for a possible ambulance building. And that was really good. 2 students participated, that didn't cost us any money. Now the university, we've approached the university to do some work for us, and they want to run it through their Center for Community Design Center, and then they sent us this contract. And it's just here today to let you look over it. Everything in red they wanted us to look at, like fees and stuff, and we're not really too sure what building site we're going to use down there yet. One of the sites we looked at, we're talking about just north of Ron's on US Highway 287, the other one's down on Price Lane, a little bit across from that. I think a greenhouse, I don't want to think about that greenhouse. So those are different sites, so we're not ready to move forward on this. I just want to bring it to your attention. Got it on the agenda. The university professor, she's not going to be able to make next Monday's meeting because that's the first day of classes for MSU, first semester. And so we need a little work on this contract. Need to work, kind of a work session, kind of figure out what are some of these terms they're talking about and see if we can nail it down what we want them to do.
Okay. Have you sent a copy of this to Corey yet?
No, I haven't, but I sure
Yeah.
will. I might have, yeah, I think I did send it to the first email, but I'll give him a.
We just want to make sure he
copy.
reviews it, and I'm sure he'll have some comment on it.
Sure, absolutely. I think it's their standard contract. I've been trying to get a hold of the professor. She is like a lot of university professors, and some of them's missing in action between classes and stuff. But they'll get back to their schedule starting next month. And I might have to go down and visit with them, have some questions. They have some concepts in here that I'm not familiar with. Architectural concepts. So we have an understanding what we're going to get from them for this project.
And I'm guessing at some point before they start this, we're gonna meet together as this group that we down in the south end, and everybody that's involved.
Right.
To kind of.
Once we get this nailed down, we get a
Yeah.
contract, yes. I think they'll assign a couple students, I don't know how many.
Okay.
They haven't even had class yet, start next Monday, see how many students. They got several different projects they're working on. See, the ones we had before, there was only 2 students in that summer class. That was a half a session, half a semester class. And they were graduate students. I don't know what they have for a class load. They probably have everybody registered, but I don't know what projects the students are gonna select. They have other projects, they're looking at community projects around the state. Yeah, I think we should sit down with that group. Southern Broadwater County would meet with. I think we need to visit with fire, trying to get on the agenda for the Three Forks Rural Fire District Board of Trustees in that area. And same with the ambulance board trustees, kind of see what that. I think right now, all they want is two vehicles, like a brush truck and a tender. Fire department wants. Ambulance just wants a place to put one ambulance. And then, of course, the sheriff's office, we got a little handout I gave out before for a previous meeting, things the sheriff's office needs to accommodate them. Okay. So it's just a concept we're kind of floating around. Yes, Commissioner?
Will they design that to eventually put a structure truck in there?
Absolutely. Sure, design it for a big structure truck, yes.
Okay.
Like 12 by 12, or 14 by 14 doors, whatever the standard is for that.
Hey Mike, the $2,500 looks really reasonable. Do you have it in your budget?
Nope. I don't have that in my
Any talk
budget.
on where that will come from?
Well, last time we had a meeting, you visited a little bit about, I think you mentioned, Commissioner, about the Pelt turn lane money.
Oh, okay,
Yeah,
But
Right.
that's all, I don't know anything about that, I don't know what that is.
I think that's been
Okay.
discussed
Okay,
as well.
no, I haven't got any money.
okay.
And I don't know.
Well,
if
that's
you
what
want-
I thought, but I didn't remember.
I don't know if you even wanna put it in DES name, you probably want the Board of County Commissioners,
Yeah.
not my name.
Right.
That guy's money.
Yeah, you're just a contact at the moment.
Yeah, I just thought a little coordinated.
All right, thanks, Mike.
Any
Nice
questions?
work, Mike.
Anybody? Okay, thank you.
Okay, move on to the 10:45, Mary Hendrickson, Public Works Director, intercamp loan request for solid waste canisters.
All right, good morning, Commissioners.
Morning.
Morning.
So the reason I'm here this morning is to request your approval to pursue an intercap loan so that we can purchase some 20-yard cans and dome lids for solid waste that we could then use for canister rentals. Right now, all of the canisters that we have, save 3 40-yard cans, are used. And the 40-yard cans that we have at the canister site on Cedar Street, we use as rotation cans. But I did have a call, I had 2 calls last week for canister rentals. And the people that needed cans were okay with taking the big 40-yard cans. They can access the can from the back instead of from the top. But these 20-yard cans are, just looking here to see, 50 inches tall. And so they're like the green cans that we have for cardboard at some of these sites right now. And I have a message into Rural Steel in Caldwell, Idaho. They make them. They gave me a quote last May, but that quote included 10-yard and 20-yard cans, so they're going to give me a new quote. But I anticipate, I spoke to her this morning, there shouldn't be much of a variation in cost from May to now, or March to now. So we're looking at about $8,100 a can, and Steve and I sat down, looked at the business that we've done to date prior to making our changes to solid waste here in the county. And if we had 6 cans, we could put a can out at Dry Gulch for newspaper, because we do collect, or not newspaper, apologize, cardboard. We do collect a lot of cardboard. And we don't have anything like that out at Dry Gulch. And then we would have cans to rotate for use. And so we're looking at a total of, my calculation is $48,624. And I would like to utilize the intercap loan program for that. Right now their interest rate is 3.37%. And I think it's been that rate for 9 years or something, look like.
No, it was 1% not too long ago.
Okay,
Yeah,
okay.
it's, I think like just the last 2 years, but it's been
Okay.
holding steady down.
Okay, so I just went through that calculator, and if we carried that note out for 5 years, it would be about $10,000 a year. We could pay it off sooner than that, but just to give us a little wiggle room on that, I would propose a 5-year note on that. So I would like your consideration and approval to seek an intercap loan for solid waste for 6 20-yard canisters and lids.
What was the total again, Mary?
$48,624. And then we'll have freight, I apologize. It looks like freight on what I had originally proposed, it was 10 cans was $5,200. I'm sure freight rates have changed. That'll be in the quote that she gives me, so it'll be a little more than that.
these same cans be used for your contractors too?
Yes,
Is that kind of?
that's the primary
Our primary
reason.
reason,
Yes,
yeah.
it is. It is, I know that, I have heard some things from people that have contracted with Tri-County, for instance. Tri-County's boundary is just south of Townsend here. And people pay a lot more than what we would charge. We would charge the $65 per ton rate, which is our tonnage rate right now, for construction waste. And people have paid over $1,000 to get a can and delivered and disposed of. And I think that for us, it wouldn't be, people wouldn't have to pay that sort of charge.
We've been working with Mary and talking about this for quite a while. I move that we grant Mary's request for the intercap loan for 6 20-yard canister cans and no lids, as proposed.
And you're just proposing, you're just asking for permission to proceed for the loan, right?
Yes, I am.
Okay, and then once you get those terms, you'll come back to us.
I will need your approval for that, yes, before we finally submit it.
Yeah. So is that your motion just to proceed forward with the loan, not the actual purchase, right?
No, we have to start with the loan first.
Right.
So, yeah, my motion is for step one.
Yeah. I'll second.
Motion been made and seconded to allow Mary to pursue an intercap loan for the purchase of 6 20-yard canisters for solid waste. Is there any further discussion?
How's this gonna be passed along? Who's gonna pay for that?
It'll come out of the solid waste funds.
Okay, is that gonna raise our,
No, it's not,
okay,
it's
cause,
not.
and you're the trash lady?
I'm the trash lady and the public works director.
Okay, so I would talk to you about, since this whole solid waste debacle, I was invited to learn more about my departments. The doors were locked that day when I came down here, and 5 of us sat outside the front door wondering why nobody was
You
open.
can, my office is down here.
Right,
Please come
well,
and
we
see me.
found that out, because I called the Broadwater reporter, and Bobby said, it's their meeting, it's downstairs. So, the whole thing with this solid waste that I'm upset about is that my canisters behind my house that I pay for are getting filled before they get picked up.
Please come and talk to me,
Yeah.
okay? I'd be happy
Is
to
this
talk
the
to you.
wrong time to do that?
Right now it is, yes, I'm trying to take care of this one piece of business and then I'll be on my own.
Okay, so you're asking for more canisters to go down to the drop-offs? Is that that's what you're asking for?
I'm asking them to approve my step one process to
To get the loan,
get the loan, to
But
get more cans.
to get more cans to
at
go
the
down to the
canister
drop-off sites?
Yes,
Okay,
and for contractors
okay,
to use. We have a lot of contractors in the county, as you know, we have a lot of construction going on. We don't have canisters
specifically for them.
that we can get to them, that we can rent out to them and get that revenue. So right
Okay.
now, that revenue is going to Helena, it's not coming
Okay.
to our county.
Yeah,
I would prefer that we get that
that
revenue.
makes sense, yeah.
Yes,
Yeah,
yeah.
I'm just, Yep.
Yep.
I'm new to all this,
Yep.
so,
You
Just
bet,
trying
so
to clarify.
please come and talk to me,
okay,
okay?
yeah,
And one thing you have to understand, Joe, we don't have anything to do with the city garbage.
yeah.
Those-
Well, that's why I said, how's that gonna get paid for? You know, is that gonna go on my bill now?
No.
Or- Yeah, county's different than city?
Nope.
Yeah. Yeah, thank you for explaining.
You bet.
Yes, Debbie?
Mike, I have a question. Mary, do you have any estimate on revenue from the contractors for these new canisters?
I could tell you what, I would have to go pull it out of our accounting database, and I could give you what we got last year. But, you know, we've had, I would say, we have at least 2 calls a week, okay? Let's say 2 calls a week between when the weather's nice, so we'll say May through September, 2 calls a week. I can't rent those out.